Yes, there was a brief time, it lasted exactly 3 years, when people could be clean and it wasn't called religion. No, it's nothing. I'm merely shivering in this damned humidity. We're landing anyway. Here we are. After you. But stay a little, I beg you, and walk home with me. I haven't finished. I must go on. Continuing is what is hard. Say, do you know why he was crucified? The one you are perhaps thinking of at this moment? Well, there were heaps of reasons for that. There are always reasons for murdering a man. On the contrary, it's impossible to justify his living. That's why crime always finds lawyers and innocence only rarely. But besides the reasons that have been very well explained to us for the past 2,000 years, there was a major one for that terrible agony, and I don't know why it has been so carefully hidden. The real reason is that he knew he was not altogether innocent. If he did not bear the weight of the crime he was accused of, he had committed others, even though he didn't know which ones. Did he really not know them? He was at the source, after all. He must have heard of a certain slaughter of the innocents. The children of Judea massacred while his parents were taking him to a safe place. Why did they die if not because of him? Those blood-spattered soldiers, those infants cut in two, filled him with horror. But given the man he was, I'm sure he could not forget them. And as for that sadness that can be felt in his every act, wasn't it the incurable melancholy of a man who heard night after night the voice of Rachel weeping for her children and refusing all comfort? The lamentation would rend the night. Rachel would call her children who had been killed for him, and he was still alive. Knowing what he knew, familiar with everything about man, who would have believed that crime consists less in making others die than in not dying oneself? Brought face to face day and night with his innocent crime, he found it too hard for him to hold on and continue. It was better to have done with it, not to defend himself, to die in order not to be the only one to live, and to go elsewhere where perhaps he would be upheld. He was not upheld. He complained, and as a last straw he was censured. Yes, it was the third evangelist, I believe, who first suppressed his complaint, "Why hast thou forsaken me?" It was a seditious cry, wasn't it? Well then, the scissors. Mind you, if Luke had suppressed nothing, the matter would hardly have been noticed. In any case, it would not have assumed such importance. Thus the censor shouts aloud what he prescribes. The world's order likewise is ambiguous. Nonetheless, the censured one was unable to carry on. And I know, Cher, what I'm talking about. There was a time when I didn't have the slightest idea at any single moment how I could reach the next one. Yes, one can wage war in this world, ape love, torture one's fellow man, or merely say evil of one's neighbour while knitting. But in certain cases, carrying on, merely continuing, is superhuman. And he was not superhuman, you can take my word for it. He cried aloud his agony, and that's why I love him, my friend who died without knowing. The unfortunate thing is that he left us alone to carry on whatever happens, even when we are lodged in the little ease, knowing in turn what he knew, but incapable of doing what he did and of dying like him. People naturally tried to get some help from his death. After all, it was a stroke of genius to tell us, "You're not a very pretty sight, that's certain. Well, we won't go into the details. We'll just liquidate it all at once on the cross." But too many people now climb onto the cross merely to be seen from a greater distance, even if they have to trample somewhat on the one who has been there so long. Too many people have decided to do without generosity in order to practice charity. Oh, the injustice, the rank injustice that has been done to him. It wrings my heart. Heavens, how easily one slips into habit. I'm on the point of making a speech to the court. Forgive me and realise I have my reasons. Why, a few streets from here there is a museum called Our Lord in the Attic. At the time they had the catacombs in the attic. After all, the cellars are flooded here. But today, set your mind at rest, their Lord is neither in the attic nor in the cellar. They have hoisted him onto a judge's bench in the secret of their hearts. And they smite. Above all, they judge in his name. He spoke softly to the adulteress, "Neither do I condemn thee." But that doesn't matter, they condemn without absolving anyone. In the name of the Lord, here is what you deserve. Lord, he's my friend. He didn't expect so much. He simply wanted to be loved, nothing more. Of course, there are those who love him, even among Christians, but they're not numerous. He'd foreseen that too. He had a sense of humour. Peter, the funk, Peter denied him. "I know not the man, I know not what thou sayest," etc. Really, you went too far. And my friend makes a play on words. "Thou art Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church." Irony could go no further, don't you think? But no, they still triumph. You see, he had said it. He had said it, indeed. He knew the question thoroughly. And then he left forever, leaving them to judge and condemn, with pardon on their lips and the sentence in their hearts. For it cannot be said there is no more pity. No, by heaven, we never stop talking of it. It's just that no one is ever acquitted anymore. Over the dead body of innocence the judges swarm. The judges of all species, those of Christ and those of the Antichrist, who are the same anyway, reconciled in the little ease. For one doesn't blame everything exclusively on the Christians. The others are involved too. Do you know what has become of one of the houses in this city that lodged Descartes? A lunatic asylum. Yes, it's general delirium and persecution. We too, naturally, are obliged to come to it. You've had a chance to observe that I spare nothing, and as for you, I know that you think as I do. Wherefore, since we are all judges, we are all guilty before one another, all Christs in our cheap way, one by one crucified, always without knowing. We should be, at least, if I, Clemence, had not found a way out. The only solution, truth at last. No, I'm stopping, cher amie. Fear nothing. Besides, I'm going to leave you, for we are at my door. In solitude and when fatigued, one is inclined after all to take oneself for a prophet. When all is said and done, that's really what I am. Having taken refuge in a desert of stones, fogs and stagnant waters, an empty prophet for shabby times, Elijah without a Messiah, stuffed with fever and alcohol, my back up against this mouldy door, my finger raised towards a threatening sky, showering imprecations on lawless men who cannot endure any judgment. For they can't endure it, très cher, and that's the whole question. He who clings to a law does not fear the judgment that puts him in his place within an order he believes in. But the keenest of human torments is to be judged without law. Yet we are in that torment. Deprived of their natural curb, the judges, loosed at random, are racing through their job. Hence we have to try to go faster than they, don't we? And it's a real madhouse. Prophets and quacks multiply. They hasten to get there with a good law or a flawless organisation before the world is deserted. Fortunately, I arrived. I am the end and the beginning. I announce the law. In short, I am a judge penitent. Yes, I'll tell you tomorrow what this noble profession amounts to. You're leaving the day after tomorrow, so we're in a hurry. Come to my place, will you? Ring 3 times. You're going back to Paris. Paris is a long way off. Paris is beautiful. I haven't forgotten it. I remember its twilights of this same season, more or less. Evening falls, dry and rasping over the roofs blue with smoke. The city rumbles, the river seems to flow backwards. Then I used to wander in the streets. They wander likewise now, I know. They wander, pretending to hasten towards the tired wife, the strict home. Ah, mon ami, do you know what the solitary creature is like as he wanders in big cities?